shadow frequency, where the veil between this world and the next grows thin, and the things that whisper in the dark are given voice. From the cryptic candlelit studios, deep in the Indiana forests, your host, Matt Wilson, and his spectral producer, Juniper Ravenwood, unearth the forbidden, the forgotten, and the fearsome. So, still your heart, dim the light, and listen closely. For once you tune into the shadow frequency, you may never tune out.
Good evening and welcome back to The Shadow Frequency. I'm Juniper Ravenwood, and wherever you're listening from tonight, I hope the lights are low, the air is still, and whatever is making that sound in the next room has decided to stay in the next room. Now, normally of late, I'd be seated at the dead air terminal, fingers on the keys, asking that strange machine to spit out something unsettling for us to explore. But the last night, it gave us a little bit of static, and then it printed out what I'm pretty sure was a grocery list in a language I don't speak, And before that, I tried going back to the file cabinet, which, as some of you may recall, nearly took my hand off. So tonight, we are consulting something older. Much older. Sitting beside me on a stand draped in black cloth is a ritual plaque of dark stone and hammered bronze. Its face worn smooth in places, sharp in others. Its eyes are hollow, its mouth fixed in a shape that somehow looks both ceremonial and annoyed. The cuneiform etched around its edges has been translated very loosely to mean something like, "He who listens beneath the dust." We, however, are calling it something a little simpler, the Oracle of Nineveh. And before either Matt or Chris ask, no, I do not know whether it is actually from Nineveh. No, I don't know why the room got colder when I uncovered it. And no, I'm not entirely certain it likes me. Chris, before I wake this thing up, what kind of topic are we looking for tonight?
Weird current internet topics.
Weird current internet topics, all right. That feels specific enough to be dangerous. Let's see what the Oracle makes of that. I put my hands on it.
At last, the child returns with questions.
Good evening to you, too.
Your age is ever in haste. Speak your petition.
We're looking for tonight's case. Chris wants weird, current internet topics, strange digital folklore, disturbing modern stories, the kind of thing people find online and wish they hadn't.
So the mortals gather again around their glowing little windows and call it wisdom.
That is more or less the arrangement, yes.
And you would have me consult a buried record for this?
That is exactly what I would have you do.
Then be still.
I am still.
You are still in the manner of a wind-tossed reed.
That's fair.
Do not interrupt the reckoning. I consult the buried record. I read the ash of forgotten kingdoms. I sift the dead frequencies. I pass my sight through dust, signal, and shadow. A thread has risen.
What kind of thread?
One woven through abandoned halls, sleepless chambers, and false light. A procession of images born not on a temple wall, nor royal tablet, but by corrupted signal.
You're being dramatic again.
I endured the fall of empires. I have earned drama.
Fair enough. What have you found?
A matter worthy of disturbance. A thing of dead links and dark signals.
There it is. Tonight's case, dead links and dark signals. 3 internet horror stories that spread because they felt just real enough to get under people's skin and stay there. A plague doctor figure captured on a disc that arrived with no clear origin. A woman in Seoul live streaming her own unraveling while thousands watched and no one stepped in. And a broadcast signal from West Virginia that seemed to warn viewers not to look at the moon, until the signal itself changed. These are kinds of stories that don't just live online, they linger there. They get replayed, decoded, argued over, archived, mythologized, and after a while, it gets harder to tell whether you're looking at fiction, folklore, or some new thing in between. Chris, you asked for weird current internet topics. What do you think of what the Oracle dragged up for us tonight?
I think it's right in the sweet spot. This is the kind of stuff that feels modern on the surface, but underneath it, it's the same old fear-bad signals, strange messages, people seeing something they don't understand and passing it around until it becomes bigger than whatever it started as. That's what makes it good. It feels current, but it also feels like folklore being built in real time.
Exactly. That's what I like about this one, too. It's digital, it's contemporary, it's wrapped in screens and uploads and late-night message boards. But underneath all that, it's still the same old human unease. A warning, a witness, a signal that shouldn't be there, a face on the screen that people can't stop watching. Matt, what do you think about tonight's file?
The Oracle of Nineveh, huh? Where do you dig this stuff up at? I love this kind of topic, though, because it hits close to home in a different way. With the old legends, you can put some distance between yourself and the story. It happened in another century, in another country, on some lonely road, or inside some abandoned church. But these kinds of stories come through devices we all use every day. A video clip, a live stream, a TV signal. That makes them feel a lot more immediate. You don't have to go looking for the haunted house. It shows up in your feed.
And that's the part that makes it so effective. The internet didn't kill folklore, it just changed the delivery system. So tonight, we're stepping into a world of plague doctor discs, sleepless broadcasts, hidden imagery, public unraveling, and signals that may not belong to people sending them. The Oracle of Nineveh has done its work, and Matt, the record is yours.
You are already dead. You have one less year.
First off, Juniper, thanks for summoning that from that Oracle of Nineveh. That's a new one. I've not seen that thing, and I'd rather not know where you found it, to be quite honest. But thanks for dragging this one out into the light, because tonight's file feels less like a story and more like contraband. When I crack this folder open, the first thing staring back at me is a printout of the Gage ZZ post from Sweden dated October 12th, 2015, and clipped to it is a photo of the disc itself, a weird DVD mailed in from Poland with no return address, covered in an alphanumeric string that looked like a product key until somebody played it. And what played was that black and white footage people still talk about like it might have arrived from the wrong world. A plague doctor figure standing in the shell of an abandoned building, moving slowly, almost ritualistically, with a strange light blinking in its hand while symbols flare in and out around the frame. The blog said there were clues in the figure's motions, clues in the menu, clues in the sound, and from there the whole internet swarmed it, decoded it, replayed it, and started asking who sends something like that through the mail unless they want the object itself to feel infected. And that is where this case starts to breathe cold air down your neck. What makes 11B-X-1371 so unnerving is that it refuses to stay just a creepy clip. The deeper people went, the more it behaved like layered evidence. Users pulled spectrograms from the audio and found hidden text and buried images in the sound itself. There were Morse-like flashes, coded strings, chess notations, fragments that seemed to point toward coordinates in Washington, D.C., and one phrase people latched onto like a curse: "You are already dead." Not just a masked figure in a ruin, but a message tucked inside frequencies waiting for strangers to exhume it. And because the footage appeared tied to a mailed disc rather than a clean upload with a title and a credit screen, the whole thing took on that artifact quality your brain can't shake. It felt passed hand to hand. It felt chosen. It felt like somebody wanted a Swedish mailbox, a laptop drive, and eventually millions of viewers to become part of the transmission. And once you start thinking of media that way, every play button begins to look like a dare. Then the file takes a hard turn from abandoned masonry and coded audio into something much more intimate, and honestly that may be the more frightening direction. Tucked behind the Plague Doctor pages is a still image from the Seoul stream people came to call Chip Chan. A woman in a cluttered apartment, signs behind her, webcam pointed inward, life turned outward. According to the reporting that spread around the case, She said a corrupt police officer named P had implanted a chip in her ankle and could force her to sleep for long stretches, even control what happened to her while she was unconscious. So she filled her home with cameras. Think about how bleak that is. A person becomes so afraid of what might happen while asleep that the answer is to live inside surveillance and let strangers become witnesses. Viewers found her not through a neatly packaged horror upload, but through the slow realization that they could tune in and see someone claiming to be trapped inside her own life. No soundtrack, no polished villain speech, just a room, a body, a clock, and an audience that could not stop refreshing the page while the screen seemed to hold its breath in the dark. And once thousands of people began watching Chip Chan, the horror changed shape. With the Plague Doctor disc, the fear is encoded intent. Who made it, what it means, what else is hidden in there. With Chip Chan, the fear is helpless witness. People debated whether she was documenting an actual campaign of control, whether she was leaving clues in signs and blog posts, whether the apartment itself looked staged or like the real end stage of isolation. But from the paranormal side of the file, what hooks me is the feeling that the camera is no longer just recording an event, it is participating in it. The watchers become the pressure in the room. Every hour she remained on screen, every time she slept in impossible stillness, every note held up to the lens. The audience helped convert a private terror into folklore. And internet folklore is different from old ghost stories because you can't step inside it. You can watch at 3 a.m, open another tab, and convince yourself that if you stare long enough, you'll catch the exact frame where the truth slips out from under the performance. And then we come to the third file, and this one is pure signal dread. The page Juniper tucked in here is a grainy frame from a broadcast that looked like public access television from Mason County, West Virginia. All the familiar low-budget trust of local programming, the sort of thing nobody guards against because it's supposed to be harmless. Then the message changes. The station starts warning people not to look at the moon. Don't look. Stay inside. Wait until sunrise. And then the signal appears to fight with itself. One message says, danger. Another says the danger has passed and everyone should go outside. Text glitches. Instructions reverse. Authority fractures in real time. That may be the most modern supernatural fear of all. Not a monster in the woods, but a trusted system speaking in two voices at once, one pleading and one luring. So put the three together and listen to what they're really saying. A disc arrives through the mail with a figure that moves like a coded omen. A woman in Seoul turns her room into a live evidence chamber because sleep itself no longer feels secure. A local TV signal tells you not to look up, then another voice grabs the microphone and practically shoves you toward the window. Different formats, same infection. These stories spread because they don't feel like campfire fiction. They feel like clues from inside the machine. They ask you to watch, decode, and keep watching, which means the audience becomes part of the haunting before it even realizes the door is open. And that to me is why the internet horror sticks so deep under your skin. Because the screen doesn't just show you the darkness anymore, it invites it in, and something in us still answers when it knocks. 3 cases, 3 screens, and we're really only at the edge of them.
That's what gets me. None of those stories feel finished.
No, and that's the worst part. They feel like the sort of thing still waiting for the next viewer.
And in the second half, we're going deeper into why these stories linger, what may actually be behind them, and why even the ones built like fiction can still feel horribly real. Juniper and Chris, I'll hand it over to you guys.
But the psycho copy disables the cam before he attacks me. Sometimes changes the direction of the focus of cam showing the closet. I have slept for 20 hours every day since then.
If you're anything like me right now, you're probably wondering which one of these files is the worst to sit alone with after midnight. We've still got more to dig through, and somehow it gets stranger from here. Chris, come on in.
Thanks, June. And yeah, this is exactly the sort of episode that makes you look at every old screen like it's keeping a secret. If you're enjoying hanging out in the dark with us, make sure you like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. It really does help the algorithms find more wonderfully strange people like you. Follow us on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble and all the major podcast directories, and swing by shadowfrequencypodcast.com for every episode. The companion blog, merch, show notes, and links to all our platforms. You can also support the show by buying us a coffee on the website, and you can reach out there by email or voice message that might end up on a future episode. All right, June, back over to you.
Time to fire up the Spectral Cosmic Message Materializer. Flipping the switches now. Let's see what crawls out of the static this time. Ah, there it is. A little folded whisper drifting through the ether.
Message retrieved from the void.
Let's unseal this strange scrap and see what our listeners sent in from the dark. This one comes from Gary and Tanya in Ontario, and they write, "We usually listen on Spreaker after the house settles down, lying in bed with the lights off and just letting the room go dark while the episode plays. There's something about hearing your show that way that makes the hauntings hit harder, but we also really love the UFO and conspiracy episodes because they leave us talking long after the show is over. We found the podcast by accident a while back, and now it's part of our nighttime routine. Thanks for making late nights a whole lot stranger. Keep the signal alive." Gary and Tanya, that is absolutely the correct way to listen to this show. Lights off, room dark, and just enough regret to make it memorable. We appreciate you both listening on Spreaker and taking us with you into the weird hours of the night. And if anybody else wants to send us a note, you can always reach us at shadowpodcast@protonmail.com. Let's sort of back over to Chris. He's got something to talk about here. Chris?
Gary and Tonya sound like they know exactly how to set the mood for this show. And honestly, listening in the dark after the whole house goes quiet feels very on brand for tonight's case. A remarkable survival story out of Siberia says a man in the Yakutia region was brought back to life after nearly freezing to death on a bench in the city of Mirny. Paramedics found no pulse and no blood pressure, and early efforts to revive him failed. But at the hospital, doctors slowly raised his body temperature over several hours, carefully warming him to prevent damage to his organs. Amazingly, the procedure worked, and after 5 days of recovery, he was well enough to go home. June, I will send it back to you.
That is incredible, and also the sort of story that reminds you the human body can wander a lot closer to the edge than we like to think. All right, let's get back into tonight's file. Matt, bring us in to the second half.
You are tuned to the Shadow Frequency, where every whisper tells a story from beyond the veil. The darkness continues.
Thanks, Juniper, and that mailbag was great. And Chris, that Siberia story is one of those reminders that the line between miracle and nightmare can get very thin very fast. But getting back into tonight's file, the thing that keeps hitting me is how each of these cases turns technology into a haunted object. I've got another item here in the folder, and this one is a printed screenshot from the Observer piece on Chip Chan, the one describing her claim that P put a chip in her ankle and used it to force her to sleep for up to 20 hours a day. It is just a screenshot, just words on paper, but that's what makes it powerful, because it shows how quickly a webcam can become a witness stand. She reportedly kept cameras running so she could know what happened while she slept. Read that once and it sounds bizarre. Read it twice and it starts to sound like the modern version of somebody putting salt by the door, or hanging iron over the bed, or keeping a candle lit till dawn. Same human instinct, different century. We want proof that the bad thing came, proof that we were not imagining it, proof that something crossed the threshold. And when the threshold becomes a camera lens, the haunting doesn't feel older and safer. It feels current, electrical, and much too close to home. The Plague Doctor case works the same nerve in a different way. If a creepy video just appears online, your brain files it under content. But when a physical disc shows up in the mail, postmarked from another country, addressed to a real outlet, and then turns out to contain layered codes, hidden spectrogram imagery, blinking lights, menu clues, and messages buried in the sound, that stops feeling disposable. The original GAD ZZ post makes that plain. They thought they had received some odd software or maybe a review item, and instead they found themselves holding what looked like a puzzle constructed to be solved communally. That matters. The mailed object is part of the spell. The envelope, the handwriting, the disc, the feeling of placing it into a machine and hearing the drive catch, all of that turns the viewer into the next handler of the artifact. And when online sleuths started pulling text and images out of the audio, including those grim phrases and disturbing hidden visuals, the video stopped being a performance and started feeling like it had compartments inside it. A lot of horror depends on what jumps out at you. This one depends on what was packed away behind the obvious layer. And I think that is why people still talk about it like something unfinished might still be waiting in there, just under the noise. Now here's the one skeptical note I think belongs in the file because it actually makes the whole theme sharper rather than weaker. The moon signal case, the Don't Look at the Moon broadcast, is not an unsolved real hijacking in the ordinary sense. It comes from Local 58, a fictional analog horror series created by Chris Straub and presented as a Mason County, West Virginia station called WCLV-TV. In other words, that piece is crafted horror, deliberate horror. But here is why I don't think that lets the case off the hook at all. It works because it is built from real cultural nerves. Emergency alerts are real. Public access weirdness is real. Signal intrusion is real enough in public memory that once a fake one is done well, your body reacts before your rational mind catches up. So even when we know we are looking at an invented transmission, the fear it unlocks is genuine. Sometimes digital folklore does not endure because it fooled everyone forever. Sometimes it endures because it exposes exactly what people were already primed to fear. That official voices can be corrupted, that screens can turn persuasive, and that something as familiar as the moon can become terrifying the moment a trusted broadcast tells you to see it differently. And that's where all three cases suddenly line up. The Plague Doctor disc plays on contamination. Not medical contamination exactly, but informational contamination. The idea that media can carry a payload. Chip Chan hits neglect, the sickening possibility that a person can unravel in front of an audience large enough to help and still remain fundamentally alone. Local 58 strikes at signal corruption, the dread that the systems meant to orient us can reverse polarity and start ushering us toward danger. These are old fears wearing modern clothes. In older stories, the cursed thing came out in a crate, or the warning came through a dream, or the dangerous voice came from the woods outside the village. Now the crate is a padded envelope, the dream is an involuntary sleep under livestream, and the voice comes through a television graphic that looks official enough to obey. That is why I think these stories endure. They are not just internet curiosities, they are folklore prototypes for the digital age. And every time somebody reposts them, decodes them, translates them, or makes a theory video about them, the stories gain another layer of witness testimony. They evolve in public. They become stronger because they are watched, which is exactly how a haunting would behave if it understood modern life a little too well. So where does that leave us tonight? I don't think it leaves us with one neat answer, and honestly, I wouldn't trust the file if it did. The Plague Doctor remains a mailed artifact with enough deliberate construction to feel personal. Chip Chan remains one of the bleakest examples of the internet staring straight at a human mystery and never deciding whether it was witnessing danger, delusion, or some awful mix of both. Local 58 remains fictional, yes, but it is fiction and that functions like recovered evidence, which may be the reason people remember the moon warning as a feeling before they remember it as a story. That is what makes Dead Links and Dark Signals such a perfect title for this one. Some of these things live in archives, some in reposts, some in half-remembered late-night viewings, but they all keep resurfacing because they tap the same buried thought, that a message can find you through ordinary devices, and once it does, part of you is never entirely sure the screen is finished speaking. Maybe that's the real curse of internet horror. Not that it fools you, but that it leaves you watching anyway.
Yeah, and once something gets into the machinery of your head like that, it doesn't need to be standing in the room with you to do damage.
That's cheerful, Chris. Deeply unsettling, but cheerful.
And that's tonight's file. However real, staged, distorted, or half-remembered these cases may be, they all prove the same thing. Folklore didn't die when we got screens. It just learned how to stream. June, I'll turn it back over to you.
Do not look at the moon. If you are afraid, we will look together.
Tonight, we followed 3 digital nightmares through dead links, hidden signals, and the kind of stories that spread because people couldn't stop watching. A mailed plague doctor disc, a Seoul live stream that turned strangers into witnesses, and a moon morning broadcast that still feels wrong just to remember. Thanks for joining us here on The Shadow Frequency. As always, you can reach us at shadowpodcast@protonmail.com. And you can find everything we do at our website, shadowfrequencypodcast.com. You guys want to say goodnight?
Thanks for listening, everybody. And tonight, maybe don't trust every screen just because it lights up when you ask it to.
Appreciate you being here with us. Keep your eyes open, keep your signal strong, and maybe leave the moon alone for one night.
We'll see you next time for another strange case from somewhere out there in the static. Until then, keep the lights low, keep the dial turned just a little too far, and keep listening for what shouldn't be there.
This episode was conjured with a solemn vow to explore the unexplained while remaining bound to the truths that have been unearthed. All interpretations are speculative and offered only for your enlightenment and your entertainment.